great when prepping channels tell you to go out and buy rice and beans and learn how to forage wild edibles, but it's a whole other thing to actually learn how to turn that stuff into something that's not going to induce gagging in yourself and your family. In this video, we're going to learn how to make this. This is going to be one of the easiest things to grow in your garden. It's practically a wild edible because it grows like a weed. It's super healthy, it's super nutritious, it has plenty of calories for energy. It's a great survival food. It's a great food for just regular times because of its health benefits. It's super easy to grow and super easy to prepare. Hey everybody, this is Praxis, and in this video we are going to be talking about sunchokes. They are really one of my new favorite foods, both as a survival food, a garden food, and an all-around kind of healthy addition to a diet. Why do I like them? Well, there's a lot of health benefits of them. They've got a decent amount of calories, but there's also stuff apparently for kind of regulating your metabolism. So it's, while it has a lot of calories, it's not the kind of thing that's gonna, bloat you up and make you like overweight or whatnot. Not that, it's not a problem that I tend to deal with, but I know that's a challenge for a lot of people. It's just an all-around great food. I'm not going to tell you all the selling points on it. Usually I research something and it checks off all my boxes and I'm like, yep, that's a food that's approved to go for Praxis, and then I kind of forget all the specifics. You can do your research yourself if you want to know the specific great dietary benefits of it. But what my favorite part of sunchokes is, and here's a little bit of a bigger one, is they grow super easily. This is something that you pop into your garden in a lot of areas of the country. Not all areas. I know there are some people in different areas of the country that have said they've had issues growing these, but here in New England they grow like a weed, and that's my favorite type of garden crop is wild edible weeds that grow in my garden. In fact, that's probably what I tend to pull the most of out of my garden, is like the weeds that I happen to know they're edible that come out of there. But this is a garden crop that is popular in a lot of places in the world, not so much here in the United States apparently, but in Europe I think this is something that is more prized for its food potential, and I really like it because it just grows so easily. You throw it in and then people warn you, it's going to take over your whole garden. It's like, I'm not worried about that. If something grows that easily, that's something I'm really into. And you don't even have to grow it in your garden. It grows in soil. It's not all that great. So, don't even put it in your garden. Put it like on the boundary, on the edges of your yard. It grows pretty tall, has flowers on the top. I wanted to jump in to let you know that this is the Jerusalem artichoke. As you can see, it's a really tall plant. It's well over my height. Of course, I'm only 4'2" myself. I'm just kidding. This is about 6 feet here. So, that's definitely, it's above 8. It's above 8 feet, this one, and they can get even higher than that. I wanted to show you the plants so you can just get a sense of how big they are and how much they can really spread. This was originally planted last year with 6 artichoke bulbs. I stuck them in here just along the edge. I harvested from that last year and apparently left quite a bit in, and it spread just in 1 year to all of these. There have to be well over 100 plants just from the 6 that I planted last season. Now, the ideal time to harvest these, here in New England anyway, is in November, when most of the foliage is really starting to die back. You start in November, and then you can just harvest them clear on through the winter, as long as you can keep the dirt soft by like kind of mulching over it or something like that to prevent it from freezing. And anything that you end up not getting by the end of the winter is going to regrow and start giving you more plants the next year. And like I mentioned, they just multiply and multiply and multiply. Now again, I know that different people have different soil and not all soil is the same, but here in New England, in my garden, boy, it went from 6 to several hundred plants, just in a matter of a couple of seasons. One other thing I want to show you is how to harvest these guys, when you do want to get them. So let's go down to the very bottom of the plant and pull some out. All right, so we are right in the thick of it right here, and you can see lots of different stalks. There are some thinner ones and there are some medium ones, and then there are some ones that are on the thicker side. Like this one's kind of thick, this one's thick over here, this one back over here is kind of on the thicker side. You're going to get your biggest sunchokes from these big guys. These are going to be the ones that have like multiple tubers kind of stacked on top of each other. These little things here are just going to give you something that is looks like maybe the size of a walnut if you're lucky. These are the kind of things you want to leave in for the following season. These are the ones I'm going to be harvesting. And the way that I do the harvest is just use my hands and just start digging down
into the soil. You could use a garden tool, certainly, if you want to. The reason I like to just use my hands is I can kind of feel the tubers in there, and I can try to avoid doing excessive damage to all the plants, and I can just go in and take out what I want. So just kind of going down along the shaft of the stalk here, kind of finding my way in there. We've got all these little lateral roots, and I'm just kind of feeling my, oh, I found one right in here. I'm just feeling around with my fingers until I find something, and then kind of dig around it. All right, there's a reasonably big one right there. So that's one we're going to pull out. Let's see what else we can find just down in this hole here. Usually when you find one, there's going to be a bunch in that area. Here's a little bit of a smaller one, but still good. And pulling these out like this, I can either cook them or I can relocate them and grow them in another area. And I think that's what I'm going to be doing with the ones that I'm digging up right here, is creating a whole other garden bed of these on top of our root cellar. I'm just going to pull up on this whole stalk, see what we got at the bottom there. Now, sometimes there's one kind of right near the bottom. This is where it had grown from one last year. That's the old remains of that. Can I find anything else? One more, or is that it for this area? I think I might call it quits on that. But just in that one area, 2 pieces of, that's decent food, just with a little bit of digging.
And we're going to talk about how to cook it in this video, because it's one thing to just say, you can grow this weird looking thing. It's another to, how to actually turn it into something. Now, this is a recipe I kind of developed myself. It's based on, a basic recipe I got online. But as I was cooking it, I was like, yeah, this doesn't look that appetizing. I made a few little changes and it came out pretty well. So I want to share it with you guys. How to cook sunchokes. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is take these and chop them up into a bunch of little slices. So there's a lot more water in that container than I was thinking there was going to be. I'm going to do my work right here, and we're going to cut these things into just a bunch of small slices. This is some garlic that's going to go in there a little bit later. I'm going to cut off the stem parts, get rid of the stems, and then just start slicing through these things. I'm cutting them to be like, I don't know, maybe a little more than 1/8 of an inch thick or so. What really is delicious on these is the surface area with all the seasonings you put on them. So you're cutting them into kind of little chip-like shapes. Cut this one up, same way. Okay, there we go. When you pull these out of the ground, they do have a fair bit of dirt on them. I find that the best way to wash them is to just put them into a little container. I put mine in here, and you just swirl them around with some water, and preferably outside, because that way you can just dump the dirty water outside. You don't want to be dumping dirty water down your sink. All right. All these little ones take a little bit extra time. Oftentimes when these things grow, they'll grow into shapes where you'll have kind of a main tuber, and then you'll have a bunch of other tubers kind of branching off from it. And that can be a little bit tough for cleaning because you get dirt in these kind of seam areas. But it is nice pulling those nice big tubers out of the ground. What I like to make these with is kind of like a side, either with rice or with pasta. Here's some roots and some dirt. We're just gonna cut all that stuff right off. One tool that's helpful for getting rid of the dirt is a toothbrush, an old toothbrush, for just scrubbing all the dirt out of the cracks. But these don't have a lot of crevices on them, so we're not gonna have to worry about that too much. All right, just a couple more. Get the roots off of this one. Again, like I said, these plant for next year really, really easily. If I were to take any of these and just throw them in the ground, they're gonna grow a whole new plant, and then that plant is gonna just spread the year after that and the year after that. I'm planning on planting a significant portion of my yard in this stuff, and even if I'm not eating it, it's it's attractive, and it is it's just a food source. It's just waiting there to be utilized if I ever need it. Okay, so we've got all of our chips here. I'm gonna set this off to the side, or you know what? I'm just gonna put them right into the pan. Initially what I did is I put a little bit of olive oil in the pan here. And we're going to be sauteing them in that. We'll add a little bit more olive oil like that. I'm not going to be telling you any amounts in this video because I don't keep track of that kind of stuff. That's why I wanted to show you what I got going on in here so you can kind of get a sense of what I've been doing. I'm going to take that garlic and slice the garlic up just into little pieces. And that's going to add to some of the flavor in there. This is some garlic that I had from last year that I just froze. All right. I'm going to put a little bit of butter in. I would normally, well, this is about 1 tablespoon of butter. Last time I did it with less butter, but today I'm just feeling, why not? I'm just going to put the whole tablespoon in. Last time I did it with like half a tablespoon, and that seemed totally fine too. But today I'm going to do it with a little bit less, or I'm sorry, a little bit more. Okay, next thing we want to add in there is some salt. I just got a salt shaker. Throw some salt on there. All right. We're going to put a little bit of lemon juice here. I just got some lemon juice in here. I recognize this stuff. I found out later it's got like titanium dioxide in it. I'm just trying to use it up. It's not the best. There we go. The lemon juice seems to interact with some of the flavor that's in the Jerusalem artichokes. They have a little bit of like a strong, I'm not sure how to describe the flavor. They have a bit of a strong flavor. But putting the lemon juice in there seems to mute it and make them a little bit more pleasant. Makes it sound really unappealing, but once you kind of mix it all together, it's a pretty good flavor. I've got some crushed red pepper. Just give it a little bit of spice. Oh, that was a little bit heavy what I added there. I'm sorry, everyone. They might be a little spicy. I've got some thyme we're going to throw in there. It's fine when you're doing recipes, though. If it's a little bit different every time, it's not a problem in my estimation. Because it's like random mutations in nature. You find mutations that are more appealing, and occasionally you find mutations that are less appealing as well. So these might be a little bit on the spicy side, but judging from the last time we had them, when I put in less of the hot pepper, they could use a little bit more spice. On my oven, it goes from between like low and 8, for what that's worth. I tend to cook these on 5. 5 is a temperature on here that I can start getting some searing going on, where if I put like toast down or something like that, it's gonna brown up. Or if you're putting zucchini or some kind of a vegetable, it's gonna brown up the surface. And that's what I'm looking for on these, is to kind of saute them and brown up the surface. Right now what we're doing is just letting them kind of cook. What else do I got here on my list? We did the salt, we got the lemon juice, which I'll put back in the fridge, save some energy. Butter, thyme, salt. Oh, okay. Last thing we're going to put in here is some cornmeal. Now, this is something that was totally not included in the recipe. When I looked it up, in fact, none of this stuff was. I think thyme and olive oil and garlic was all they had in there. Crushed red pepper I added myself. The reason I decided to add the cornmeal was, you can see it a little bit here, as I'm cooking them. They're just kind of wet, and I don't know. It looks like kind of like a wet vegetable. It didn't give me the feeling of something really appetizing. So I thought if I added a little bit of something to make a crust on them, that would be kind of a little bit more appealing. So I was thinking cornmeal would be a good item to add to that. And cornmeal is one of my preps. I have tons of it in the pantry. So I like to try to make recipes with things that I tend to use a lot. So I'm just going to take some cornmeal and start adding it on top there until it starts feeling kind of like it's got like a breading on it. I'm probably going to add a lot more than that. Right now, it's starting to smell good. Simultaneously, I should be preparing some pasta. I'm going to do some pasta with our dinner tonight. But I'm just going to focus on one thing at a time here. Okay, that's looking good. All right, so this is starting to get to the point where we've got some kind of accumulation of the flavors mixing in with that cornmeal. I'm going to turn up the stove a little bit, like a kind of a 5+, approaching 6. Yeah, like you can see kind of the edges of these are starting to get a little bit golden. I'm going to add even a little bit more cornmeal, and then I think that we'll be able to call it a day on that. The idea is you want to get them to kind of a golden brown kind of feeling, while also being cooked enough on the inside. And the way I can check to make sure they're cooked enough on the inside is just taking a fork and poking it into them, like that saying, like stick a fork in it, it's done. So that's the way I'm going to confirm that they're cooked enough on the inside. But for the time being, I'm just wanting to get them to that golden brown kind of stage. And you can see we're starting to get all of this kind of, you know, it's a texture to it, like so the cornmeal is sticking everywhere. Now this one here doesn't look like it has enough cornmeal on that one. So I'm actually gonna pop back into my cornmeal, add a little bit more. I think it'd be hard to overdo it on the cornmeal because the cornmeal is gonna absorb all of the flavors and the seasonings, and it's gonna turn into kind of a crunchy breading sort of consistency on the outside surface. And I don't know, in my opinion, you can't have too much of that. But, you know, I'm sure eventually you can. All right, so at this point I'm seeing, you know, they're all being kind of coated. And now what I want to do is just get the temperature up. I'm going to kick it up even maybe to like 6 on my stove, which is kind of on the high side. So I really want to see these guys starting to brown up now. I'm going to take a fork and check to make sure some of these thicker ones, yeah, they've got some softness to them. So at this point, it's just a matter of getting them brown. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to take something that you grew yourself and came right out of your pantry and turn it into a complete meal. Because it's so easy for, you know, people on prepping channels to say, you know, just go out and buy your rice and buy your beans and you know whatever other things you're going to throw in a pantry. But you know, you don't just eat dried rice and you don't just eat dried beans. You need to turn it into something that's not going to cause a gag reflex for you and your family. And you know, I love the feeling of, you know, quite a bit of this we grew here ourselves. The cornmeal, I bought the cornmeal, but we could grow corn here. And we certainly have grown corn here, so we could do that ourselves. And mostly it's the spices and the oils and the salt that we would bring in from someplace else. We don't have any sources of salt at our present location. I'm going to just keep pushing this temperature up. We're up at 7 right now, and given the way the sun is outside, I'm thinking I'm taxing my batteries because we're cooking on solar right now. So we want to finish this up as soon as we can. Okay, it's starting to smoke just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just let it finish up like that. I think I'm going to turn it back down to 5. And why don't we just cut to when it's done so you can see kind of what you're aiming for in terms of golden brownness. All right, we're looking like we're just about there at this point. You can see we've got some golden brown on some of the tops of these. There's little bubbles and things. As I flip them, you can see we're getting some of these brown edges on there. So this is we're getting there. And I stopped agitating it for a while so that we'd be able to really start browning some of those guys up. One good thing to do while you're cooking is just kind of taste things periodically and make sure they're tasting good. We'll see. And I'm thinking that could probably use a little more salt on there. They're a little bit like potatoes in that respect. It takes a little bit of salt for you to actually even taste any of it. Okay, and flipping those around. These are looking good. We can cook them a little bit more though. Just all we're doing is crisping up the surface now. Okay, so with that salt addition, how are we tasting? There's nothing wrong with checking them as you go. All right, that helped a lot. That's good. All right, so here you go. These are Jerusalem artichokes, also known as sunchokes. I actually prefer the term sunchoke because they are not artichokes and they're also not from Jerusalem. So I tend to prefer sunchokes. It's also a heck of a lot shorter to write it out if you're writing it out. So there you go. What I'm gonna do with these is I'm gonna make some pasta with some marinara sauce, maybe a little bit of cheese, put these on the side, maybe sprinkle the cheese across the pasta and the marinara and have it kind of trickling onto these guys too. And that's gonna be a great addition to our meal that's healthy, and we grew it all ourselves as a weed. That's it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for new videos all the time. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so either through Patreon or PayPal.